Hello and welcome to The Explainer. For this wisdom time, we're jumping into something really personal, a question that, a lot of people of faith wrestle with, and it comes straight from our source material.
Okay, so let's get right to it. The core dilemma is this, right? How can you be a believer, truly have faith, and still commit major sins? How do you square that circle, holding these powerful beliefs, but then struggling with these huge personal failings? It's a conflict that I think hits home for a lot of us.
So, here's our game plan for this explainer. First, we're going to really unpack that dilemma. Then, we'll look at a path to forgiveness. After that, and this is super important, we'll make a critical distinction between different kinds of sins. And we'll wrap it all up with a moment for some real self-reflection.
All right, Section 1, the believer's dilemma. That moment when faith and actions collide. Let's start right there, at the heart of the problem. It's a struggle that feels really relevant today, doesn't it? It's that sinking feeling, that despair, when what you do just doesn't line up with what you believe.
But the source material suggests we should maybe reframe how we look at these sins. Instead of seeing them as these giant, final, game-over kind of failures that totally cut you off, the text offers a much more hopeful and, I think, crucially, a more practical way of thinking about it.
Okay, so how do we actually do that? Let's get into the practical side of things. The source gives us a real actionable guide for anyone who's sincerely trying to get past these struggles and find their way back.
And check this out. The whole thing kicks off with a really powerful analogy. It says you should think about a major sin like a cigarette. Now, a cigarette is obviously a foul, harmful thing you absolutely should quit. But, and this is the key part, it's not an obstacle to every good deed. It's not some giant wall that stops you from doing anything good at all.
So, building on that idea, the source lays out these 5 practical steps. Just look at this list. It's a whole journey, right? It starts inside, with your mindset, like not letting your flaws make you feel worthless. Then it moves outward, to your actions. Keep doing good deeds, change your surroundings. And the whole thing is held together by that spiritual connection, constantly asking for forgiveness, supporting the faith. The big takeaway here, it's all about progress, not perfection.
Okay, so now we get to a really critical distinction because, and you got to pay attention here, this is probably the most important point in the whole explainer. That hopeful path we just talked about, that 5-step plan, well, it comes with a huge warning. It does not apply to all sins.
Yeah, that whole path to forgiveness we just laid out, it's specifically for what the source calls sins of personal weakness. We're talking about those struggles, those habits, the frailties that you are genuinely trying to beat. And this comparison makes it super clear. On the one hand, you've got personal weaknesses. These are the things you can overcome with persistence, with good deeds. But then you have barriers to forgiveness. And these are a whole different beast. These are sins so serious, they act as a direct obstacle. They literally block your prayers and good deeds from being accepted. You have to stop these immediately just to open the path back up. So naturally, the next question is, what exactly are these sins that block the way? What are these actions that create such a huge spiritual barrier? Let's take a look.
The source lists 4 primary barriers, and as we go through them, you'll probably notice a theme. These aren't just about personal struggles anymore. These are actions that actively harm the faith or other people. We're talking about things like being hostile to the faith, exploiting people using a religious position, deliberate fraud, and an arrogance so profound it just shuts a person off from any and all advice. And on top of those 4 major barriers, there are 3 more sins mentioned that can seriously delay forgiveness. They might not be a total roadblock, but they put up some serious hurdles. One of them is acting in a way that's the complete opposite of your natural or expected state.
And that idea is really driven home by this quote from a prophetic tradition. Just listen to these examples. An old man who commits adultery, a ruler who lies, and a poor man who is arrogant. You see? The sin itself is bad, but it's made so much worse because it's a total betrayal of the wisdom or the responsibility or the humility that person is supposed to represent.
Okay, so this brings us to our final self-reflection. It's about figuring out if your struggle is a weakness or a barrier. This is really where the rubber meets the road, right? It's not enough to just admit you have flaws. You have to understand what kind of flaw it is.
So the crucial question the source leaves us with is this. Is my struggle a weakness that I need to overcome with persistence and good deeds, or is it a barrier that I've built myself, one that I have to tear down before I can even move forward? That distinction, it changes everything. And digging into big questions like this is exactly what we love to do here. If this explainer gave you something to think about, make sure you follow and subscribe to our channel. We'd love to have you back. See you soon.